now I want to talk a little bit with Christian on, like with his podcast, he has a lot of traction, and it grew after it sold. And so if you're listening and you're thinking, if I buy a podcast, I don't want it to tank. I want it to grow. Even if I just have a podcast, I'm not even buying one. I've got a podcast. How do I get it to grow? Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk to Christian about that now. So Christian, what takeaways are coming to your mind for the listener right now?
Yeah, I think it's really addressing both scenarios that you described, the buying and selling side and growing side. And that is, content is king. What is your value add to your listener? You really need to understand that. So every time I build content, which is my podcast, I'm thinking, what are the value adds that I'm bringing to the listener? And that happens during the process of, right, I'm not going to change. I'm going to, go about it this way or that way, et cetera. But what is the value add? Then once I understand what the value add I'm bringing is, I have to understand what is the value add and how does that correlate to how I'm going to monetize the system. And essentially, you want to provide really your best stuff on your podcast. But what you're going to do is try to monetize in ways, whether it's a product, that you make the information more digestible, longer term, things like that people can actually utilize. So that's one monetization method. The other monetization method is through advertisement. And for me, there was two types of advertisement. One was, I'm going to go out, I'm going to be a seller. I'm going to go out and sell my podcast, and I'm going to get people to sign up for marketing ads. The thing that I found about that was very difficult is when you sell an ad, you have to contract it. It takes a lot of work. You have to go through a lot of sales cycles. You're typically talking to people who do not understand the podcast world and podcast marketing world. So you have to go through tons and tons of description. And ultimately, when it comes down to the end of the day, you don't have a way to really relate it back to the podcast in the marketing because there's all these ancillary items that you're giving them. And so you get these customers who are, frankly, they're just never satisfied. So you're always almost talking them off the ledge. And what I decided at that point was, I'm not going to go that route. It's too much work. It's too much worry. I want people to be satisfied. So instead, I did what's called dynamic syndicate ad marketing. So I used a host, and the host provides your marketing effort, and you basically put a timestamp into your podcast, and you get paid a portion of those advertisements by CPM. And for me, removing all that hassle and work, it allowed me to focus more on growing my show and going a numbers route versus a high dollar in low quality route. And that's what really differentiated me on my monetization.